Here to help us recap night one of the Democratic Convention and what the next few nights could look like is Jim Renacci, a former congressman for the great state of Ohio and the Republican Senate nominee in the 2018 race. So, Jim, when we look at what happened yesterday, there were a lot of big speeches. It started off a little bit strange. I noticed on social media everyone was saying that given the pandemic, the production was a little weird, the mood was a little bit weird. But I want to get your takeaways from day one of the Democratic National Convention.
Look, day one was, as you said, it was leading up with a lot of progressive candidates, people who wanted to talk about what a Joe Biden candidacy would be. Everybody from Bernie Sanders through John Kasich all the way to, First Lady Michelle Obama. Mm-hmm. They were all talking about anti-Trump, though. And too often they're talking about opposition of the Trump, past, what he's done, instead of talking about what they're going to do, which I think is important. I'm assuming that's going to come at some point in time. You can't just keep talking about President Trump. You got to start talking about what you're going to do different.
I think you're exactly right, and especially when the issue for the Biden campaign is voter enthusiasm. It's always easier to get people out to vote when they're voting for something as compared to voting against something. And when you talk about policy, too, I think you're right on. I mean, throughout the night, it was very much so about the soul of the nation or character, or whatever they kept saying that Joe Biden has been saying for the longest time. But when you get to actual substantive policy, there wasn't much. And I think that's why we did see someone like former Ohio Governor, Republican John Kasich, come out and kind of give his speech. A lot of people were critical of that because progressives weren't getting the same type of airtime. But when it comes to John Kasich coming on to the Democratic National Convention, explaining that there's the two different avenues or pathways, whatever he was saying, what do you make of John Kasich's sudden support, if you will, for Joe Biden?
Well, look, I've known John Kasich for the last 10 years. I knew him before he ran for governor. I was friends with him. I supported him 2 times. I did not support him during the presidential candidate. I actually came out and endorsed President Trump. So my issue with him is he was talking about a crossroads. We're not at a crossroads. He wants to talk about turning around and going backwards. John Kasich, he did the crossroads speech. That's what he did when he was running for president. But ultimately what he's saying is, I don't want to go down this road anymore. I want to turn around and go back, which is really what a Biden candidacy is. It's going back to the Obama days. It's going back to raising taxes. It's going back, to the climate change issues. It's going back to a lot of things that many people were happy that we got away from. So it's not a crossroads, as John Kasich talked about. It's really turning things back. I was really disappointed in Governor Kasich because, he is a Republican. He's talking about how you can change your ideas and the soul of the nation. But if you look at the policies, forget the people. I know Donald Trump and I know Joe Biden. I've met them both. They're nice people. The policies are the difference. And I got to tell you, Joe Biden's policies are not taking us to the soul of the nation or in the right direction.
And that's an interesting point, because when we talk about Never Trump Republicans, as they're now called, whether it's John Kasich or members of the Lincoln Project or whatever it may be, they claim to be conservative, and I understand that. But it's always an interesting thing when then they're put in a situation where, for example, John Kasich leads into Bernie Sanders and says Joe Biden won't take a hard left, and Bernie Sanders is sitting there saying, we can get Joe Biden to make a hard left. So it's interesting to me to see conservatives saying, I don't like President Trump, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and facilitate this guy who calls himself a vehicle of the progressive left. So when we talk about this from an ideological standpoint, do you think that Joe Biden will take that hard left?
Well, I do in the end. Look, Joe Biden just wants to be president. And I think in the end, he's wanted to be president for probably the last 10 years. He knows his only path to being president is to take that hard left, to get those individuals to support him. And at the end, even his running mate, she's going to take things to the far left. Just look at some of the proposals, raising taxes, a minimum wage increase to $15. All of these things are really the progressive side. He wants a single option in the single payer option in healthcare. All of these things that have been discussed that are far left policies, this is what Joe Biden's talking about. He's not talking about coming to the middle. He's not talking about a moderate. He's not talking about being a moderate candidate for president or even a moderate president. He's talking about issues that will take him to the left. And he's okay with that because he wants to be president.
And you bring up the idea that Joe Biden has wanted to be president for 10 years. And I think that's an interesting point because nobody else in the Democratic Party did want him to be president. There was an article in Politico last week talking about how the Obama administration, for example, coming out of 2016, wanted Hillary Clinton to be the nominee and not Joe Biden. Of course, he never ran. But when he eventually did enter the primary race, I remember the conversation was, well, we got to get Mike Bloomberg in here because Joe Biden can't get it done. Or maybe Michelle Obama should run because Joe Biden can't get it done. That's been the conversation that a lot of people have been having until Joe Biden eventually was the nominee. Then we did see the party kind of coalesce around him, but by no means was he the first pick. And I know that's something that won't come up in the next couple of nights at the DNC, but what do you think will come up the next couple of nights? Do you think it will make a shift towards policy, or do you think we're going to get more of the soul of the nation type talk?
I think we're going to continue to get a soul of the nation. The policies won't win them the election. The only thing they can talk about, look, I have Democrat friends here in Ohio.
Right.
You know, most of them say that, you know, they don't want to go to the left. They don't want, so Biden can't talk about those policies, and the people that are in the convention can't talk about those policies. All they can talk about is the soul of the nation, how we got to come together. And by the way, we weren't that much together under Biden and Obama either. I mean, there was a separation back then, too. People seem to forget about it. I was in the House of Representatives during that period of time, and also during the Trump administration. There was clearly a separation and a division back then, too. So these are the soul of the nation was lost even 8 years ago under the Biden-Obama presidency. I'm not sure where they think they're going to find it.
No, and I think you bring up a good point, is that history is cyclical in this sense. I mean, even right now, as we look at unrest on the streets, for example, 4 years ago, it was the Ferguson, Missouri situation. I mean, these things tend to come in cyclical type of things. And right now, too, I see a lot of parallels between the 2016 race and the 2020 race, that being the neoliberal return to the Obama administration policies against the more outsider candidate. I mean, there's so many things that are happening, such as hiding the candidate from the public until the last couple of days. That's what happened with Hillary Clinton. And here we are having a similar debate right now. But Jim Renacci, I appreciate you coming on, breaking down where we stand in the Democratic National Convention and what we can preview for the next couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you very much.